We're monitoring this very closely. I want to bring in Brian Mast, the Republican Florida congressman, sits on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee as well. But integral here, he's a crucial player in funding for FEMA and these other organizations that are there apparently to provide federal relief. Congressman, FEMA's running out of dough, and there's been a back and forth as to whether it's up to the challenge and up to the financial challenge here. What do you think?
Yeah, the back and forth of it goes like this. You got about three things at play. We're in the midst of the normal appropriations cycle that has to be done by the end of the federal government's fiscal year, end of September. You have these emergency appropriations potentially for the hurricane, for what happened in Hawaii with the wildfires. And the third leg of that could throw a real wrench into everything is if somebody in the House tries to tie Ukraine funding to emergency funding. There are very real germaneness commitments going on in the House right now. I think if those two things get tied together, you have a very real problem with FEMA funding.
So far, they say that won't happen, but obviously the devil's in the details and the timeline. There isn't that much time here. I'm told in the past, Congressman, when FEMA is out of dough, it essentially borrows so that it can provide funds in emergency relief. Is that true?
It's not just that you can borrow. There's also the ability to move funds from one account to another account within FEMA. Their director can find some, let's call it, money sitting in the cushions in other areas and potentially move it that way for a period of time. But obviously that would run out as well.
How do you see this going? I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I know many in your, district, even though you're closer to South Florida, the Palm Beach area. The fact of the matter is, everyone was sort of put on high alert, and in the affected area, many had at first seemed to be unwilling to leave their homes. They ultimately did. It worked out far better than people thought, though, didn't it?
It did. I was able to fly into Orlando Airport pretty late last night, which says something about the conditions there. Wow. You see that it hit what was considered to be a reasonably unpopulated area, not to say that it's not affecting the people that are there very significantly, but it affects people all across the state of Florida because you have companies like FP&L that have to utilize all of their equipment and send it to a different area. You have all of those food service companies like Cheney Brothers and others that have to mobilize to feed all the people that are preparing for disaster response. So there is a lot that gets moved around from all portions of the state.
I'd like to, you're Floridian and you're very proud of it. It's a beautiful state. A lot of people have migrated there. I think at the rate of about 1,000 a day, still goes on. Then a storm like this happens, Congressman. I'm wondering if some of them say, I don't know if it's worth it. What do you tell them?
I'm saying this jovially and jokingly, and this is in the midst of a storm, but I say this very seriously as well. A lot of Floridians that I know, they take more seriously the temperature dropping below 55 degrees than they do a Category 1 or 2 storm. And I'm not saying they should treat it that way, but I'm telling you, people in Florida very seriously do treat it that way.
So, obviously it's going to be, this is the height of the season. I understand that, Congressman. Some have said that it could still be very busy and a preview of coming attractions. There are still some unnamed storms off in the Atlantic, elsewhere. Sometimes they don't materialize into anything, as you know far better than I. Are you worried, though, about state preparedness, about whether Floridians, whether they're new or whether they're native born, are up to what could be coming their way?
No, I don't worry about Floridians in that way, because the truth is every time that there is another storm, the state is more and more prepared. The weak trees are the trees that get knocked down first. The weak infrastructure is the infrastructure that goes first. And every time there's another one, the infrastructure is that much more improved, and it does help the situation.
Got it. Congressman, great seeing you. I know we squeezed in all these other developments, other things I had wanted to talk to you about, but I'm glad we got this in there. Brian Mast, the beautiful state of Florida, still beautiful. A little banged up around that Clearwater area, but getting through it. So are we, and so is Wall Street, up 49 points. Stay with us. You are watching Fox Business.